Today, we're going to dive into a paradox, one that sits right at the heart of our modern world. We're going to uncover how the very design that makes the internet so incredibly strong is also secretly its greatest weakness.
So let's just start with a really simple, but when you think about it, a really deep question. Why is the internet so darn resilient? I mean, this is a global network where little pieces of it are failing every single second. A router in one city overheats, a cable under the ocean gets damaged, and yet you're still watching this. The whole thing almost never goes down. How is that possible?
Well, the answer is a total paradox. It turns out the internet's amazing ability to handle all these random, everyday failures comes from the exact same feature that makes it shockingly vulnerable to a planned, targeted attack. That's right. Its greatest strength is also its greatest weakness. So let's unpack that.
So is the internet really unbreakable? For a long time, we kind of just assumed its strength came from having a lot of backups, simple redundancy. If one road is blocked, data just takes another. But as it turns out, the real story is way more interesting than that.
And this puzzle isn't just about the internet. Scientists see the same thing in biology, like the metabolic networks inside our own cells that just keep on working no matter what stress we put them under. And in all of these systems, that easy explanation of redundant wiring just doesn't quite cut it. It's not just about having extra paths, it's about the type of map the whole system is built on.
So to crack this mystery, we have to get one thing straight. Not all networks are built the same way. In fact, most of the complex networks that shape our world, they fall into one of two very, very different buckets. And this is the key to everything.
Okay, so take a look here. These are the two fundamentally different types of networks. On the left, we've got what's called an exponential network. See how it looks kind of uniform, kind of democratic? Most points, or nodes, have roughly the same number of connections. But on the right, whoa, that's a scale-free network, and it is a totally different beast. You can immediately spot those massive glowing hubs that are connected to tons of other nodes, while most of the little guys are barely connected at all.
So the structure is really the whole story here. The exponential network, think of it like a city's road grid. Most intersections connect to maybe 3 or 4 other streets. It's all very even, very homogeneous. A scale-free network, though, that's like an airline route map. You have these huge hubs, think of airports like Atlanta or Dubai, that connect to almost everywhere, while most smaller airports only have a few direct flights. The entire system is dominated by those hubs.
And this hub-dominated structure has a name. It's a scale-free network. Now, the term comes from some pretty cool math, but what it basically means is that having a few nodes with a gigantic number of connections isn't just a fluke. It's a predictable and essential part of the system. These hubs aren't accidents. They are the very backbone of the whole thing.
All right, so now that we've met our two network types, let's put them to the test. Let's see how they hold up when things just randomly start to break.
Now, this graph shows what happens when we start randomly deleting nodes. Just focus on that blue line with the squares. That's our scale-free network. And would you look at that? The line is almost perfectly flat. Even when we knock out 5% of its nodes, the network's efficiency barely changes. Information still gets through just fine. It's just incredibly tough.
So why is it so resilient? The secret is baked right into its structure. In a scale-free network, the vast majority of nodes have just a couple of links. So if a failure happens at random, the odds are overwhelmingly high that it's going to hit one of these little, unimportant nodes. It's like taking out a tiny regional airport doesn't really disrupt global air travel because the major hubs are still standing, holding everything together.
But what if the failures aren't random? What if someone with bad intentions decides they want to cause as much damage as possible? Well, that brings us to the second, much darker side of this whole paradox.
Okay, let's go right back to that same graph. This time, I want you to look at the red line, the one with the circles. This shows what happens when we run a targeted attack, where we intentionally remove the biggest, most connected hubs first. And the result is just catastrophic. The network's diameter shoots through the roof. Its ability to pass information doesn't just get a little worse, it completely collapses. The very thing that made it strong is what makes it so fragile.
And this right here, this is the network's Achilles heel. The entire system's health depends on that tiny handful of super-connected hubs. If you know which nodes to target, you don't have to destroy everything. You just have to surgically remove its backbone, and the whole thing shatters into a bunch of little islands that can't talk to each other anymore. This is the exact principle behind some of the most sophisticated cyber attacks. You don't break everything, you just break the right things.
And listen, this isn't just some abstract theory.
You're looking at actual maps of the real internet and the World Wide Web. See those bright, super dense clusters on both of them? Those are the hubs. Those are the powerful central nodes we've been talking about, the ones holding the rest of the web together. They are perfect, real-world examples of scale-free networks. This is the hidden architecture of our digital lives.
And the implications here go way beyond just computers and the internet. It turns out this scale-free blueprint, this combination of resilience and fragility, seems to be a universal pattern that nature and humanity have stumbled upon over and over again. Seriously, once you see it, you start seeing the structure everywhere. It's in social networks, where just a few influencers have massive reach. It's inside our own bodies, where a few key proteins control most of what our cells do. It's even in how pandemics spread. It seems like both nature and technology figured out that this is a really efficient but also really risky way to build things.
So let's just quickly wrap up what we figured out. These huge, complex networks that run so much of our world are often scale-free, meaning they're built around a few super important hubs. That structure makes them unbelievably good at shrugging off random accidents. But that exact same feature creates a massive vulnerability to a smart, targeted attack. In the end, their strength and their weakness are literally two sides of the very same coin.
And that leaves us with one final, fascinating question for you to think about. Now that you know the pattern, a system that seems incredibly tough but has this hidden critical vulnerability, what other parts of our world do you think are secretly running on the same scale-free blueprint? The global financial system? Our food supply chains? Your own social circle? The blueprint is out there. Now you know how to look for it.